In 1 month from today, Rogue One comes out December 16th. I'm pretty excited about it. This is a story of Star Wars rebels fighting to bring down an evil empire. Now, right now there's a lot of news stories about just some rebellious people that are rioting and doing crazy stuff, burning things and stealing things. And some of them think they have a definite purpose, but let me just tell you, stealing something from somebody or burning down somebody's business never accomplishes a good purpose, right? We all agree with that? That's not a good thing to... No? You guys all think burning down houses and stealing people's stuff is a good thing?
Oh, no, I wasn't.
No, I'm saying we can all agree that that's not a good way to let people know you're frustrated, right?
Yes.
Right. So that's kind of being a rebelling for the sake of rebelling. But this is about a story that's a rebellion built on hope and that justice will overcome an evil empire. So we kind of started talking 2 weeks ago about how Jesus is a rebel, right?
Yeah.
And that first week we said that Jesus rebelled against the social rules and expectations that people had about him so that he could connect with people in need. And that first week in Mark chapter 1, we said that he broke down these man-made rules and he touched a leper, and lepers were untouchable. And we talked about how Jesus cleanses the unclean. And then last week we continued in Mark chapter 2, and we looked at some rebellious dudes that broke through this guy's house and tore the roof off to get their paralyzed friend to Jesus. And Jesus forgave his sins, and he helped the helpless in that he didn't just forgive this guy's sins, he healed his body, right? And the leper came in on his bed, and he left with his bed on his back, right? We said Jesus helps the helpless. Tonight, we're going to continue in Mark chapter 2, so if you have your Bible, you're going to turn there. That's where we're going to stay this evening. And we're going to talk about Jesus' encounter with a guy named Levi. And he actually had another name was Matthew. But Jesus socializes with sinners. Any of you guys socialize with sinners?
Yep.
Hopefully. So, what we're going to talk about, Jesus socializes with sinners. Point number 1, write this down. As we read this passage, you're going to notice that there's a crowd with Jesus again here. And he's teaching them, but he calls out one guy, and we're going to call him the lonely traitor. Lonely traitor. Traitor. Mark chapter 2, verses 13 and 14 says this. Jesus went out again by the sea. The whole crowd came to him, and he taught them. As he went along, he saw Levi, the son of Alphaeus. Anybody's dad named Alphaeus?
My dad's name is Eric.
I knew a guy named Alfie.
Yep. I know you.
I don't know if that was short for Alphaeus. Can we find out?
Alfred.
Huh?
Alfred.
Alfred. Dang it. I was hoping it was Alphaeus. I'm going to call him Alphaeus if I see him again.
It's like Alfred from Undertale.
Sitting at the tax booth. Look at your friend and say tax booth.
Hey, tax booth.
I have one.
Nobody did it. What is up with you guys?
Tax booth.
Look at your neighbor and say tax booth. Follow me.
Follow you.
He said to him, and he got up and followed him. So here we meet Levi, who is the son of Alphaeus, and he's also known as Matthew. All right, so he's got a lot of names going on. It was common, though, in biblical times that somebody, if they changed their job, they would change their name. So he's known as Levi, the tax collector. He becomes Matthew, the follower of Jesus. And so Jesus calls him. He's sitting at a tax collector's booth, and so this is not like H&R Block. You guys know what H&R Block is?
No.
It's not like the courthouse. I go to the courthouse to pay my taxes when I pay taxes on my car or my house. I have to go to the courthouse. It wasn't anything like that. This was probably just a little table, a booth, a shack, something like that. And here's Matthew, Levi, he's just sitting there, and it's on a trade route coming into the city, and everybody that was bringing in their stuff to sell, if they had food, or they had crops, or they had clothes, or fabric to sell, they're coming into town, and they had to pass by, Joey, will you be Levi for me for a minute? I'm just going to slide, this is your tax collector's booth. So here I am, I've got my stuff, and I'm bringing it in, and Joey's going to be like, what would you say? Yeah, he would say, give me the money. So I'd have to dig into my wallet and pull out my tax for whatever I've got. Boom, I'm giving it to Joey, and I'm going along, and I just hit the tax collector's booth. Well, that's where Levi is, and Jesus comes along and sees him, and there's a whole crowd of people following Jesus. And out of everybody here, like you guys are the crowd, Joey's the tax collector, Levi, And I'm like, hey, everybody, I'm going to teach you about some good stuff about how, you know what, I want you to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And the greatest commandment is love God with everything you are and love your neighbor as yourself. So that's my lesson today. Oh, Levi, follow me. So we get up and we keep walking, and Levi's now following Jesus. Right? So that's what happened. Thanks. Give Joey a hand. You really did good. So here's the problem, though. Nobody liked Joey, a.k.a. Levi. So everybody give Levi your I don't like you face. JD? Do it. That's it right there. Oh my goodness. That just gave me chills. James' I don't like you face is not a happy thing. Here's the reason. It's because to get his job, Levi would go to the Roman government, who the Jews didn't like because they were in their land. Romans came from Rome and came to Israel, and they took over their land. And so Levi said, hey, I need a job, so guess what? I'm going to pay this much money to be a tax collector, and then he would be able to collect and get some back. But instead of just charging the minimum amount of tax, how much do you think he charged?
The maximum.
The maximum. He would charge over and above, and then he would give Rome what they thought they needed, and he got to keep the rest. So does anybody trust Levi, the tax collector?
Yes.
No, they don't trust him. And here's the thing. He couldn't even go to church because a tax collector was not trustworthy, so they couldn't be counted as a judge if somebody had a dispute. They weren't counted as a witness if they saw something. They didn't trust their testimony. They couldn't go to the synagogue, which was the Jewish church, because they excommunicated them. You guys know what that means? They kicked him out, and they said, basically, you're not getting into heaven. You're out of here. You're excommunicated. You can't come to synagogue. And guess what? Now, everybody know Joey's mom and dad?
Yeah.
Derek and Amy? They're such good people. Guess what, though? He's a disgrace to the family.
What?
Levi disgraces his entire family because he decided to be a tax collector. So guess what? He's not welcome at his house. He's not welcome at the synagogue. He's not welcome around town because nobody likes him. But guess what? Jesus is walking along, and the whole crowd is with him, and he's teaching them, love God, love people. And then he sees Levi, and he says, follow me. Come on. Does that make any sense? They would pick the one guy that nobody likes in the whole crowd and say, you're with me, my man. Can you imagine being in his spot? Nobody likes you. Your family thinks you're a disgrace. You can't go to church. Nobody trusts you. Does that sound like a good place to be? It doesn't sound like a good place to be. No, it doesn't. You were missing something there. But Jesus' commandment to Levi, this lonely trader, is follow me. Now, if it were me, I would probably be thinking, what are you doing? How dare you? Right? Because he's stealing my money. What? Why are you betraying your own people? You shouldn't even think of coming with us because nobody likes you. You can't be trusted. Right? That's what most of us would think. But Jesus says, follow me. He goes against the social norm, and he invited Levi to become his disciple. He invited Levi to leave behind this business that made him wealthy and to follow Jesus. He doesn't stop there. The second thing he says is, let's eat. Write this down. Let's eat. He says, follow me to the lonely trader, and then he says, let's eat. Verse 15 says this, as Jesus was having a meal in Levi's home. Now this is why we know Levi had some money, because he had enough of a house, a big enough house to house Jesus and the other disciples that were with him at that time, and even some other people. So Levi had a pretty big home, so he was making some good bank cheating people out of their tax money. Here's what he says. Many tax collectors and sinners were eating with Jesus and his disciples, for there were many who followed him. So Jesus invites Levi, and you might think, well, that's no big deal. I mean, you can eat out wherever, you can come to the house, whatever. It doesn't mean anything. But in their culture, inviting somebody into your house to have a meal had a lot deeper meaning. What it meant was that it was considered a sacred duty in ancient times to take care of people that were out and about. So in the Old Testament, we see stories of people that were like coming into town, they've got nowhere to sleep. Oh, we're going to provide you a place, we're going to feed your donkeys, we're going to whatever, take care of your camels, and we're going to give you food, and we're going to provide for you. So it was this, hospitality was something that was held sacred. And when someone invited someone else to eat with them, they were extending a pledge saying that I'm going to be loyal to you, and I'm going to protect you in my home. And then that invitation to dinner meant that that person was wanting to become a close friend with the person that had invited them. So, When Jesus ate a meal with all of these sinners and outcasts, he was essentially offering them forgiveness. And in short, this is on your fill in there, sharing a table meant sharing life. It wasn't just a meal, it was an invitation to a relationship. It was an invitation to become, in a sense, part of the family. It was an invitation to say that my home is your home, and you will never feel unwanted or rejected while you're here because I'm inviting you in to eat. And think about the guy that Jesus says, let's go have a meal. It's Levi, the guy that nobody trusts, the guy that nobody counts on, the guy that's been an outcast and he's been pushed out of the synagogue and he's not welcome there because he's a traitor to his own people. But Jesus says, I want you to come in. Here's the thing. The invitation that Jesus offers stands. It doesn't matter who you are or what you've done. In the book of Revelation, it says that he stands at the door of your heart and he's knocking and he's waiting for you to open the door and he wants to come in and have a meal with you. And you think, well, that's no big deal. It's a meal. But remember, what is the meal? It's an invitation to life. It's an invitation to family. It's an invitation to belonging. It's an invitation to say, it doesn't matter who you are or what people think about you, I want you to become a part of my family. And that's what Jesus did with all of these sinners. And that's the invitation he gives to us. He's extending a pledge of loyalty and protection and peace and trust and family and forgiveness. And you have to ask, have you accepted that invitation? Are you willing to accept that invitation? That's what Matthew did here, Levi. He accepted the invitation and his life was transformed. He went from being this lonely traitor that was a social outcast that didn't have any close friends except some tax collectors and sinners. Those are the only people that Matthew could find to fill his house with when Jesus came. Tax collectors and sinners, other people that were in the same spot in life as him and they were stuck. And he filled his house with them. And Matthew went from being that to the same Matthew that wrote the very first gospel in the New Testament. He went from being somebody that couldn't be a witness or a judge in somebody else's case, and now he is the first witness in the New Testament to tell us about Jesus. And everyone around the world, well, not everyone, but a lot of people around the world have read Matthew and listened to what he says about who Jesus is. As a tax collector, he was unable to be a court witness, but as a follower and disciple of Jesus, he became a trusted witness of Jesus' life and ministry. Let me ask you this. How would your life be different if you really lived out the invitation that Jesus offers you to become something new? As we prepare to close tonight, I want you to write one more thing down. We see Jesus chose to share a meal with some people that I'm calling the responsive rejects. It says the house was filled with tax collectors and sinners. And here's what the problem comes in verse 16. It says this: when the experts in the law and the Pharisees saw that he was eating with sinners and tax collectors, they said to his disciples. Now these guys don't even have the guts to go to Jesus and say it. They tell his friends about it. Right? That tells us these guys are kind of not on the up and up. But he says this. They say, why does he eat with tax collectors and sinners? When Jesus heard this, he said to them, those who are healthy don't need a physician, but those who are sick do. I've not come to call the righteous, but sinners. You see, these socially accepted experts in the law and these politically correct Pharisees were really upset because Jesus chose to eat with tax collectors and sinners, people that they considered lower than themselves. They were probably like this: ooh, who do these people think they are? Coming into this house. Right? Why does he eat with the tax collectors and the sinners? Right? I want to punch those guys right in the throat. You know what I mean? Like, who do you think you are? Your poop stinks. Everybody's poop stinks, Fred. That's why we're all the same. Everybody's poop stinks. But these guys were the type of people that thought that if they hung out with the wrong people, they were going to get dirty. And so they were choosy about who they spent time with. And when they were saying, well, Jesus, why do you eat with these people that are tax collectors and sinners? What they were really saying is, Jesus, you're not even clean yourself because you choose to hang out with these people. Was Jesus clean? Yes.
He's the cleanest of them all.
Cleanest of them all.
He takes a shower every day.
That's why he says this. Look at this. Look at Jesus' response. Those who are healthy don't need a physician, but those who are sick do. I've not come to call the righteous, but sinners. In other words, he's saying that someone that is healthy or thinks that they might be, even though they're mistaken, is not someone that will look for treatment. But when people realize that they're sick and they're lost and they're undone, they look for help. So Jesus was willing to go have a meal with these tax collectors and sinners because they didn't think they had it all figured out. And that's the type of people that Jesus can work with. If you think you've got it all figured out, you're missing the boat, because Jesus says that you've got to come not as the healthy, righteous person or the unhealthy, righteous person in reality. You've got to come as a responsive reject that says, I can't fix myself. I need somebody to help me. And when you come with that attitude to Jesus and you say, I need somebody, he says, I'm right here. And he welcomes you into a meal where it's not just food, it's life. It's transformation. Where do you find yourself tonight? Would you be falling in line with these Pharisees and experts in the law that thought they really had it all together when really they were leading people straight to hell? Or would you find yourself more in line with these responsive rejects who say, you know what, I'm not perfect. I need somebody. I need Jesus. Let's pray tonight. Jesus, I thank you for this opportunity that we've had to look into your word. We've had a chance to just have fun together. We've had a chance to worship together. And tonight, Jesus, I pray that you would just speak to hearts tonight. Lord, if we're in this place and we've been guilty of thinking that we have it all together, we've been looking down our nose at other people, Lord, I pray that we would see the error of our ways and come humbly before you and ask for forgiveness. Lord, I pray for those that they might connect with Matthew as being the guy that has messed everything up all along the way. And Jesus, in you, they want to find life and hope. So Lord, I pray that you would speak to our hearts tonight. Holy Spirit, we invite you to come in and do what only you can do in these few moments that we have together before we dismiss. We ask this in Jesus' name. Guys, as your eyes are closed and your heads are bowed, this is just so you can have a moment. I believe the Holy Spirit wants to speak clearly to hearts tonight. And I don't want anybody to be a distraction or to be distracted by something else. So I want you to treat this as a holy moment. A moment that could be the difference in somebody's eternity. And I'm going to ask tonight, if you are committed to Jesus and you are following after him and you want to lead other people to follow after him, just quietly to yourself, I want you to just to begin to pray that the Holy Spirit would be free to move in this place and in our hearts, and that we would be receptive and open to what he wants to do in us.